Hello everyone, my name is Fabaria Pendragon. We are the Whispers, and this is how to play Miner in Risk of Rain Returns. As usual, today we're going to go over how to obtain and effectively use Miner, starting with a brief overview, then going over our main abilities, then how to acquire and use the alternate abilities. Additionally, I've gotten some requests to talk items lately, specifically which are good for each character, and so at the end I'll be adding the inclusion of a item wishlist segment, basically a short list of the items I consider to be most desirable for the character overall, sorted by rarity. Unlocking Miner can be quite the dangerous task. When you reach stage 4, one of the possible stages is the Magma Barracks. In one of its variants, you need to go to the furthest right side of the map, drop all the way down, and trudge through the burning lava, reaching a hidden cavern where you'll find Dire Seeker, a powerful elite Elder Lemurian. A quick tip, this unlock is the exact same as the original Risk of Rain. However, in the first game there were only 2 variants of the stage, whereas in Returns there are 6. Only the original variant has this secret zone, so you can go into your menu and disable new stage variations, and that brings the 1 in 6 chance of getting the correct stage back into a coin toss. Save the gambling for the drift remains. And thankfully, your first ability, Crush, is a great way to build it. It's a simple melee that hits all targets in front of you, it builds heat with each hit, and it has a much larger range than expected. Additionally, while you're scorching, you get extra damage on each hit. Now, unlike Acrid's melee, this can't be turned around while aiming, but it has a notable back hitbox, so a lot of times you'll be better off just backpedaling towards the enemy while you continue to hit them, instead of trying to stop and turn around every time they move or get knocked behind you. Next, Drill Charge gives you a way to spend that heat. By default, it's little more than a forward dash. It damages all the enemies you collide with, and you are invulnerable during the attack, which is pretty nice. However, if you hold the ability with the heat built up, it will spend that heat to extend the distance, and with it, your time spent invulnerable. It also gets rid of its cooldown entirely while scorching. This means that if you get to scorching with a large crowd, you can drill back and forth through them, flinging them around and damaging them all heavily while they can't even hit you back. Third, Miner has Backblast. You blast backwards. Yes, it's self-explanatory, but it's also pretty effective. Everything in its range takes a chunk of damage and is stunned, and yet again you become invulnerable during the attack. Additionally, while scorching, you get extra distance and damage on the attack. If you want, you can also jump forward, turn around, and point your back where you want to go, and then activate this as a diet secondary forward dash. Lastly, Pierce the Heavens with To the Stars. You launch yourself into the air with a shotgun-style explosion downwards at enemies below. While scorching, this ability costs 20% of your heat gauge, but like Drill Charge, it also has no cooldown, meaning you can hold the button and fire off a couple, then go back to normal swinging to build heat back up, and alternate between the two to do huge damage while staying in your scorching state. Additionally, it'd be a crime of me not to tell you the sheer height you can get off this without items. It adds its upwards momentum to other forms of vertical movement, so hitting it the moment after a jump can get you some serious airtime, and using it after a geyser boost gives you extra height on them, which can sometimes get you to some fun places. With every ability doubling as either a solid or outright fantastic movement tool, Miner's game plan is a lot like a hyper-aggressive Acrid. You do need to get in and get out, but while in, Miner is able to weave in and out of enemies in a way no one else can. hitting the entire horde with every ability and keeping yourself invulnerable in the process. With proper resource management, you can stay in the fight much longer, and once you have some solid healing items, more often than not you can just stay in. My late game miner runs pretty much never leave Scorching because he's just so good at getting to the next group of enemies, bursting them down with a barrage of abilities, refreshing the Scorching gauge, and then shooting off to the next. He's certainly not without weakness, as all of his attacks are rather short-ranged, so he needs those iframes to avoid being sent to God with same-day shipping. But I'll be damned if he isn't a great survivor, and his ults only give more good options. Miner has alternates for his primary fire, as well as his second and third ability, and each of them are great options, meaning you're going to have a large variety of very viable loadout options here. Alt 1 could be obtained by just killing 8 Elder Lemurians without losing your Scorching status. The 2 last maps are a really good way to do this because they spawn a bunch of Elder Lemurians. Alt 2 is obtained through a Providence trial called Break the Targets, and it is basically just the Smash Melee minigame. And Alt 3 is obtained by completing the Providence trial Scorching Heart, where you use the ability to maintain your Scorching for at least 40 seconds. First, Crush becomes Throwing Axe. I suppose Miner realized since he's strong enough to swing these damn things around all day, he might as well just start throwing the fuckers. You lose some of the damage per hit, and thrown picks only hit one enemy at a time. However, you of course get more reach, and while Scorching, you gain your piercing hit back alongside a major throw speed increase. At first I thought this one was pretty underwhelming, but let me show you something really quick. See, these axes are affected by your movement, so if you jump right as you throw one, it gets more distance, and if you run forward and jump, whee! So the extra distance from these can make it much easier and safer to build and keep heat without exposing yourself to the cold crushing embrace of a stone golem. Next, Drilled Charge becomes Drilled Dash. Instead of only going left or right, this takes you in whatever direction you're pressing, which is really great for mobility. And if it hits an enemy, instead of pushing it with you, you just lock onto that enemy and stay in place doing a ton of damage. The big loss here is that you don't get extra distance with heat, but instead stay locked onto the enemy for longer. This means you can shoot up to a boss and do a bunch of damage to it. Additionally, while the ability description doesn't mention it, you are invulnerable while in the attacking portion of this ability, so that damage can be pretty much free, especially if you keep backdash to ensure a safe escape. Lastly, for our ults, Backblast becomes Burnout. You create a large explosion from your body that stuns all enemies. This explosion costs you 25% of your health, and in return gives you 25% heat gauge with no risk of killing yourself. It's just as simple as that. Exactly what it says on the tin, folks, and it slaps. Trading health for heat alone is a cool ability, but it also does big damage and a stun. Good stuff, Miner. Good stuff. I gotta say, Burnout alone really sells Miner as this berserker type melee class, and I can't even begin to tell you all which loadout to use because I'm constantly switching abilities on Miner. In fact, Burnout is usually the only one I don't swap back and forth constantly, and I love it. Personally, I think Alt 1 and Alt 3 don't need to go together because you don't really need the help keeping heat up while you have Throwing Axe, but Burnout goes great with the stock primary, and I use it with Alt 1 anyways because I think its damage is awesome, and I personally don't mind playing risky with my health bar. If you want to play a super safe Miner, just go for Alt 1. Use that safety and the extra heat that you can get from it for extended invulnerable drill dashes more often, then escape with Backblast. It's a really solid playstyle. Miner is fluid, adaptable, and powerful, and is a great survivor for anyone trying to learn melee characters, or for anyone looking for a more true melee experience as opposed to the pseudo-melee zoner experience that Acrid provides, or the hit-and-run playstyle of Alt 1 Bandit. Now then, onto our brand new item wishlist. In the white rarity, Meat Nugget and Monster Tooth are both great options that I love to see early. Like I said before, with a bit of survivability, Miner has the ability to stick around in the thick of it for much longer. And for this reason, Medkit is also pretty great. And I'd actually like to call out Medkit in particular, alongside Fire Shield and other items that react to you taking damage, like Spike Strips, because they all react to Burnout. This means with spike strips, you can actively choose where to drop spikes in a very controlled way instead of risking a limb getting hit by the horde. Fire Shield basically just becomes a damage buff to your already very powerful explosion, and Medkit is basically a discount on how much health you spend to get that heat gauge in the first place. In the green category, items like Dead Man's Foot and Panic Mines have similar function, as you can intentionally drop yourself to low health, but I can never undersell the value of Timekeeper's Secret on any melee character. You've got to understand, for a melee character in Risk of Rain, especially in the endgame of a run, no matter how powerful you feel, it is very easy to take one wrong hit and watch your health bar evaporate. Typically, this is something you can react to before you die, but when you're dead center of the crowd, suddenly that window is much shorter, and Timekeeper's Secret promises you that golden window of opportunity to breathe, assess the situation, which has now thoroughly gone to shit, and position yourself where you need to be to best handle it. In the red category, I'm gonna be honest, I have to disqualify Ceremonial Dagger because otherwise I will mention it in every video. I love it, it's my favorite item in the game, I get hype every time it comes on my screen. But for Miner, Repulsion Armor is huge. Combined with survivability items, this does tons for your ability to stay in the fight and do extra damage. Now, if you're looking for a more consistent boost that's safer, it's hard not to praise Tesla Coil on every melee character. It shocks enemies nearby, and you're always nearby enemies. And given the amount of time you spend invincible mid-fight, Tesla Coil makes for tons of free damage. In the gold or boss item category, you'd probably expect me to just say Colossal Knurl, because, I mean, of course, it gives health, regen, and armor. It makes you tanky, and in melee you tend to take more hits. And you would be right. I don't know what else to tell you on this, it's just good, man. That being said, Burning Witness is also great. Leaving a fire trail everywhere you go and improving your move speed to get you to that next crowd is really nice. And of course, Legendary Spark is, well, legendary. Gold items may not stick around on this list because they're just really good, all of them. Reds either. I mean, what of these two categories isn't great on pretty much any character? Nobody dislikes more damage. Anyways, lastly, equipment items. I have to admit I'm boring here. I just run Supermassive Leech all the time. Missile Launcher is nice if you want to hit enemies at range, maybe soften up a crowd. Foreign Fruit gives a nice early survivability boost. You could also use an equipment to stop time. It's hard to go wrong with equipment items, but for most melee characters, I almost always go Leech. I love me some lifesteal, what can I say? Also, can we all just agree that Hailstorm goes hard as fuck? Why is Chris so good? Like, y'all like that new intro? That was... God, the soundtrack for this game goes so fucking hard. Anyways, that's it for this one, and I have more script here, but we're gonna break away a little bit. I'm gonna read you some of it. By the time this video goes up, we've already hit 1,000 subs. Just about a week ago, we were at 200, and now we're eligible for the YouTube Partner Program. That's all true, but we are partners now. A day after I wrote this script, we hit 100 kind of late at night. I put in the application before I went to bed. I didn't even make it to lunch, my lunch break at work, the next day, before we had already become a partner. That's how quickly everything processed. For context, this process usually takes months, and I can only imagine it is because of how rapid our growth was thanks to your support. Sub counts, I think the metrics displayed like a fucking... what was the last number? I saw 7,000 before. I think someone in my Discord said 12,000% increase. It's truly insane, and I cannot begin to thank you guys enough, which is why I'm gonna save all the rambling for the 1,000 sub special. But in short to say, there is now a real chance of doing this full time, which that was always the goal. Always wanted to be a content creator. My start was I love video editing, and I'm like, hey, what can I do that allows me to use my passion for video editing and my expertise in it? And this just happened to be the obvious fit. You know, I know how to make the assets, I can make my own channel art, I can make my own music, I do all that stuff because I like creative and artistic things. Combine that with my expertise in video creation and video editing, and basically just got a content creator. And to think like that was the goal, but I couldn't have ever expected it to happen so suddenly, just all at once. So short to say, thank you a ton. I'll be putting out a special soon, which there is going to be one video. I don't know if it's going to be the main special. Actually, I know exactly what I'm going to do. I just came up with it. There's going to be two videos. First is going to be an about me, which will be the start of a Q&A, because a lot of my older viewers know me a lot more. And I know it's not anything I keep secret, but I want to get the new people acclimated as soon as possible. I don't want anyone to really have sort of these false impressions of who I am as a person. So I'd like to get that out of the way, and that will be the first half, and it's going to be a Q&A. So any questions you have, leave them in the comments, and then the second video will just be me answering those questions, and I think that's how we'll start it. I'll probably do like a celebratory 12-hour stream. Make sure you subscribe so that you can see the community posts. I will be posting that. You can also join the Discord, which is a link in the description, and you will be able to get updates then as well. I'll do a 12-hour stream sometime soon. I don't know, hopefully within the next month or so, but that's gonna be amazing. If I let myself, I'm gonna sit here and ramble for 10 more minutes, so I'm gonna stop. I don't want to double the runtime of this video, but thank you guys, you're all fantastic. Take it easy, and hope to see you very soon.
In terms of a break in the action, we're going to hold on to that chance for precipitation.